Okay, today we're going to be covering some miscellaneous issues associated with applying for financial aid. So three things I want to cover are the Minnesota DREAM Act, how to search for scholarship money, and then what does a student need to do if they're looking at going out of state, if they're not attending college in the state of Minnesota. I'm Gary Schindler. I'm the Dean of Student Affairs at Riverland Community College, and I also serve as Financial Aid Director at Riverland.
Do you have to be a citizen to receive financial aid?
Good question. An issue that is important in the state of Minnesota, and it's a fairly new law, is that if an individual is undocumented, they can attend college in Minnesota, but also they may be eligible for some state financial aid. They cannot receive federal financial aid. And it's called the Minnesota DREAM Act. There's one at the federal level, but the Minnesota DREAM Act applies to someone that's currently in high school. If they attend a Minnesota high school for 3 years and graduate, if they, or they can earn a Minnesota GED. They also need to apply for selective service registration and start the paperwork to gain legal immigration status. That individual can apply for financial aid. It's a special website. They do not do the FAFSA form, and then they could be considered for state financial aid. The presentation includes a URL to an office of the Minnesota Department of Ed office site where an individual can go in and do an online application to apply for state financial aid if they're undocumented, but again meet those conditions. Attended high school 3 years, graduated or earned a Minnesota GED, registered for selective service, and then started the process to, with the paperwork to achieve a legal immigration status.
What is the average scholarship awarded in Minnesota?
Yeah, another topic I want to cover is just scholarships, because again, when you're applying for financial aid, you obviously want to do the FAFSA form to apply for state and federal financial aid, grant money, student employment, and student loans. But you also want to take some effort and put some energy into searching for scholarships. Just to give you an idea, in Minnesota, at a 2-year public college, the average scholarship award is a little under $1,000. A small percentage of students in our 2-year schools do get scholarship money, but it is available through probably a college foundation. And most colleges have one, and there are freshman and sophomore scholarships for the 2-year colleges. At the state universities, like again, Winona, St. Cloud, Mankato, the average scholarship is around $2,000, and that probably impacts about 25 to 30% of the students at a 4-year university might get a scholarship award. University of Minnesota, the scholarship awards there can average about close to $4,500. And over half the students at the University of Minnesota do receive a scholarship, so there are opportunities there. And then the nonprofits, our private universities have pretty lucrative scholarship opportunities. So for example, at almost 100% of our private colleges, the average scholarship award is $15,000 a year. So there are generous opportunities there through the private colleges to help pay for tuition fees, book supplies, and living expenses.
What is a good strategy to find scholarships?
Well, I would suggest, first of all, look locally. A student or a couple or an adult that's independent that's going to college should check with an employer to see if they have scholarships for employees. If they belong to a church, they should explore opportunities there. Also, if they belong to a civic organization or if they're involved in their community, there may be scholarship opportunities there that a person can apply for. The other tip here when it comes to scholarships is do not pay anyone a fee to search for financial aid or to search for scholarships for you. The presentation includes about 8 scholarship search engines where you do an individual profile, you indicate who you are, where you're from, might include national origin, ethnicity, special interest and hobbies, where you're going to college, what your major is, activities you were involved in high school, or actually activities you're involved in your community. You actually do a profile on these online search engines, and then that system will look for scholarships for you. You actually can even put specifically where you're thinking about going to college, and they will search for that college database for scholarship opportunities and inform you of opportunities to apply. All of these are free. Some of the larger ones are the College Board site. The fastweb.com can give students access to thousands of scholarship opportunities. Career One Stop is also a good site, but all of these are good, and the state of Minnesota actually has its own scholarship search engine through the Minnesota Department of Education. So use a search engine to explore for those scholarship opportunities.
Do I need to do anything if I'm going out of state?
One thing that a student should be doing if they're looking at going out of state is that, especially if it's to North and South Dakota or Wisconsin, is that there are something called reciprocity agreements where the student is going to they're not going to have to pay an out-of-state tuition rate. In many cases, out-of-state tuition may be double the traditional tuition rate. In some states, it's triple. So again, you need to explore those opportunities. So for example, in North Dakota and South Dakota, if a student is going there, you have to apply directly to that state for reciprocity. That's the terminology to look for. It's a reciprocity application. That means an out-of-state individual, let's say Minnesota to the University of North Dakota, can get a discounted tuition rate, and they don't have to pay an out-of-state or higher rate of tuition. When it comes to the state of any other state other than North and South Dakota, you apply actually through the state of Minnesota for reciprocity, indicating where you're planning to attend. So again, reciprocity is important because it will reduce your tuition rate. It's not a type of financial aid, but it's a way to reduce your college costs. So explore those opportunities, and the presentation will detail how to apply depending on where you're going. It includes Manitoba and some other states in the Midwest.
Are there any tax considerations for college students?
Another consideration when it comes to going to college, paying for college costs, and financial aid is that there are some tax breaks that a person can take when they file their taxes. Now, for a dependent college student, that's normally going to be the parent that gets that advantage. If you're independent, normally that would be a college student that's 24 or older and they're living on their own, they can take the tax credit. But the two most significant ones are the American Opportunity Tax Credit. That used to be called the Hope Scholarship. And that is a tax credit for out-of-pocket tuition payments for the first 2 years of college. Normally that's going to be claimed by the parents, and it's a tax credit. It reduces their tax liability. There's also an opportunity to deduct your out-of-pocket tuition and fees just as a standard deduction on your taxes. If a parent or a student were to withdraw money from a investment vehicle that's earmarked for college expenses, like a IRA withdrawal, there's some 520 plans where you can save for college. You can take those dollars out and not pay taxes, but you need to report those on your tax form. And then finally, for the student, is that college students, once they are done with college, can deduct the interest payments that they pay on a student loan. A student would receive an annual tax notification form from the IRS or from whoever they're paying their loan to, and that is a deduction off of their taxes. So the student that's paying a loan can get a tax credit or a tax deduction for their student loan interest payments for the previous year. Okay?